weekend is Star Wars Celebration, and with Star Wars Celebration comes trailers and announcements. So today I'm going to stop and rank each of the upcoming Star Wars movies and TV shows based off my excitement. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of the upcoming Star Wars projects based off your excitement. My list is not the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. And when it comes to making a list like this, it gets really tricky because so many projects have been announced or reported or rumored, and then they get canceled, they get put on the back burner. So you might include some in yours that I don't have in mine, and I might include some in mine that you don't have in yours. But like in particular, I don't have the Rian Johnson trilogy, I don't have the Sean Levy one that was reported last fall, don't have the Kevin Feige one that was reported from a couple years back, I don't have the Lando show that they officially announced like 3 years ago, simply because there haven't been any recent updates on those projects, so they're not included here. With that said, let's get started. In last place, the Taika Waititi project. Now, a few years back, I might have been really excited about this project because I was a big fan of Thor Ragnarok, and then Jojo Rabbit, of course, was an awards contender, and he just had this French sense of humor that was really exciting, and then he started being pulled into the world of Star Wars via The Mandalorian, and then the last year and a half happened where it seemed like he just burned through all of that goodwill, and his sense of humor started to grate on me rather than putting a smile on my face. I did not like Thor Love and Thunder, and even the things that he said in interviews seemed like he was throwing his own crew under the bus, and just this guy oversaturated the market very quickly, and I lost interest in his upcoming projects kind of because of that. But adding to that, we don't know anything about the plot. The statements he's made it seem like he doesn't even care all that much about Star Wars. He's not all that interested. Some of this is just his irreverent sense of humor. But at some point in time, you have to be able to turn off your humor and make a straight statement. Otherwise, if you don't take anything seriously, it's tough for us to take what you're doing seriously. And then the most recent comments on it suggest that maybe he's going to star in it too, which that sounds terrible. And especially given that he can't turn off his sense of humor, a movie of irreverent Star Wars doesn't feel like it fits in the world of Star Wars as I understand it. So my interest in this project has dramatically dwindled since it was first announced. Number 7, the Rey movie about the new Jedi Order. Now, this is the project that was rumored a few months back that was being written by Damon Lindelof, and then Lindelof dropped out and Stephen Knight took over. That was announced a couple weeks back, and now we officially know that this is a movie about Rey Skywalker 15 years after Rise of Skywalker and her trying to start this new Jedi Order. It's being directed by Shameen Abdul-Chinoy. I'm sorry, I'm certain I mispronounced that name. And unfortunately, Rise of Skywalker and the sequel trilogy in general just did such a bad job of continuing the story and sticking the landing that it's tough to be excited about a project about Rey Skywalker set 15 years after the sequel trilogy. As a character, they didn't make her compelling enough, and with enough other things, they just kind of created a scenario where my excitement for any of this is just gone entirely in this timeline. And so there's not much here to get me excited. The director is an Oscar-winning director, but for documentaries. And when you kind of look at her resume for live-action films, it's fairly limited, in which case I can't even kind of latch onto that too much. When you have a bunch of turnover in the writers, that creates a little bit of nervousness. So just in general, it's tough for me to see anything here and go, yeah, that's the thing I'm excited about. And let's say they do tell a great story about Rey being successful at running this Jedi Academy and continuing things. Even that's frustrating for me because, wait, Luke failed at this, but Rey's able to get it right? I like Luke more than I like Rey. So it's like even a number of things in here, if this thing works, well, I would have loved to see a version of this like with Luke Skywalker at some point in time, and you took that away from me. So there's a lot of feelings in here that I just can't get excited about it. Number 6, Skeleton Crew. This is an upcoming Disney Plus series that I believe will come out later this year. At Star Wars Celebration, they played a teaser for it, but footage wasn't released for the public. So if you want to get some glimpses into that, someone's probably got a pirated copy somewhere on the internet. This project is being run by John Watts, the guy that did this trilogy of Spider-Man films that we just got, and he was originally going to do Fantastic Four, dropped out of Fantastic Four to do this. On that level right there, there's a certain level of excitement that I have for it. It's said to be kind of like Goonies in the world of Star Wars, so that's kind of interesting to me. But also, without seeing a trailer, I don't really know what that means. So it's supposed to be a coming-of-age story set after Return of the Jedi. Jude Law's the adult lead, and then it has a young cast in the mix. And I'm curious about it. I'm curious. It could be like the fresh, interesting new take on this time period that we need, or it could be a bizarre mishmash of genres and styles and tones that just don't go quite together. I'm not really sure. This is also a project that has had some production issues behind the scenes, so I don't know quite what to make of that. Number of reports of just issues happening on the sets and things like that. And not even like creative differences, just like friction. Some movies and TV shows just turn out to be tough to get made. This seems to be one of those ones. So there's some things, like maybe when I see a trailer and I see the footage, I can get really excited for it. Besides that, I just have more curiosity of like, okay, why did John Watts drop Fantastic Four for this one? Okay, what is Goonies set in the world of Star Wars? And they've recruited a bunch of like top tier current up and coming directors to direct episodes. Like the Everything Everywhere All at Once people are involved in directing episodes. I don't even know what that means given Everything Everywhere All at Once versus Goonies and Star Wars. I don't know where the bridge is between those two things, but I'm curious. 5th place, The Acolyte. This is another Disney Plus series. This one's going to come out in 2024. The story is set during the High Republic, and it's supposed to be like kind of like a crime story about Jedi solving these crimes, and something more sinister emerges. And as I was compiling my list here, I was kind of going back and forth as to which one would kind of come out on top between Skeleton Crew and this one. And last minute, I switched to put The Acolyte just a little bit higher because they showed footage of this at Star Wars Celebration. Wasn't released to the public, so I haven't seen it, but it was kind of described as having a lot of martial arts thrown into the mix, and that was kind of the flavor of how it was described. I'm a big martial arts fan. I love it when Star Wars gets very martial artsy with Jedi users and stylized choreography. I love that, so I bumped it up one more because of that. This is a project, once again, I need to see a trailer to kind of fully buy into it. When they first announced it, I was very interested because I want Star Wars to go to different time periods and not just kind of look at the era of the rebellion right before it, right after it. Like, it's a galaxy far, far away, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. That means there's a lot of different planets to go to and a lot of different timelines. So when they first announced the High Republic, I was pretty excited about it. I have read a few of the High Republic books, and they didn't really suck me into that world. I didn't get like more interested. It seemed like it was just kind of, okay, it's all about this one crash. You're not winning me over here. That kind of diminished my interest in it. Describing it, however, as like this martial arts show and they're solving crimes gets me interested. So another one where a lot of mixed feelings surrounding it. I'm not particularly familiar with the showrunner's previous work to be able to even use that as kind of a gauge for my excitement level. So martial arts crime, good. High Republic hasn't won me over quite yet. Number 4, Rogue Squadron. Now, I was debating whether I would even include this one or not in the list because it seems like Patty Jenkins is out. The project was put on the back burner. So is this thing actually happening or not? It didn't seem like it was going to happen, but Kathleen Kennedy said today, Rogue Squadron, that definitely is something that we still talk about. Whether it's a movie or whether it ends up being in the series space, it's definitely something. So it hasn't gone away quite yet. And just purely on the subject matter of Rogue Squadron, I'm interested. The initial kind of announcement as Top Gun in the world of Star Wars sounds very cool to me. I would like to see Top Gun in the world of Star Wars and tell a story that is centered on the people flying X-Wings, Y-Wings, all the different wings. That sounds cool to me. Of course, there is the history with the video games and everything. So there's a bunch of like material there that's fascinating to me. Can't have it too much high on the list because there are obviously a lot of production issues where this thing was supposed to come out this December. That's not going to happen, obviously. So when you put all those different things together, I feel like there's potential here for something very cool if it can actually get off the ground and happen. Real quick, before I give you my top 3, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know your ranking of the upcoming Star Wars projects. And did I miss something really obvious in here? I was trying to do research and look at a bunch of articles of everything. There's been so many things announced and then it disappeared. It's tough to know what's still actually happening and also just track down all the things that have officially had announcements and reports about them. Also, I've done a ton of other Star Wars videos, rankings about the movies, the villains, TV shows, all that fun stuff. You can check it out in this playlist right up here. Third, the Dave Filoni Star Wars movie, unofficially titled Age of Rebellion. It has been pitched as a crossover event closing out the Mandoverse. So it's supposed to tie together plot lines from Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and more, all in this big cinematic event from Dave Filoni, beloved Star Wars storyteller, one of the most trusted names in the world of Star Wars right now, and a protege to George Lucas. He was the brainchild behind Clone Wars and a bunch of these other things, and finally, they are trusting him with a Star Wars movie as an event to close out all of these shows. At a certain point in time, this would have been an easy number 1. That point in time would have been a couple years back, right after Mandalorian Season 2 debuted. And then if they'd announced it then, like, we're going to do all these shows that culminate in a movie from Dave Filoni, I would have been like, yeah, easy. A little bit more hesitant at the moment because Book of Boba Fett wasn't great. Mandalorian Season 3 thus far, not so great. But the idea that they're actually building towards something, there's an end in mind. That perhaps all of these little threads about Moff Gideon and cloning, the rise of the Empire inside of everything, that the New Republic's not paying attention, all of the teases that they're building towards something, and we know Thrawn's coming, all the teases get me really excited. The specific writing right now from Favreau for Mandalorian Season 3, it's not cutting it for me. It is not working. This season has a lot of problems, and the problems of this season are making me look back on the previous 2 seasons being like, okay, they were always kind of there. They just had a couple of good ideas and cameos that covered up the writing issues that were there all along. But this is Dave Filoni's project. So there's a lot of potential that this could be the thing that if they pull it off with the movie, and it actually crescendos nicely, it makes me look back more fondly on some of the weaker aspects because you could see what they were doing and what it was building towards. At the moment, it's just a lot of frustration with Mandalorian Season 3 as well as Book of Boba Fett. But as someone that absolutely loved the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, that they're taking them serious enough, trusting Filoni enough to give him a movie to close it all out in the Infinity War endgame of the Mandoverse. Very curious exactly what that is. What's that going to look like? And I wish that I could comment on that, having already seen Ahsoka, to know, like, all right, does he course correct over there? Okay, I'd love to see that. And even the fact that we got that Ahsoka trailer today kind of raised my excitement for this one because it looks big and epic. But man, the last year and a half has kind of dwindled some of my excitement for some of this stuff because I would love for this one to be number 1 on this list. Our runner-up, the Ahsoka TV show, and this one, we got a trailer for it this morning, which certainly helps to kind of raise excitement because it's tangible. We can see it. We have a flavor for what it's going to be, the scale, the scope, the size, the nature of the action, and I won't repeat what I just said about some of my frustrations with the work of Filoni and Favreau over the last year and a half. I'll just focus in on what was cool about the trailer. And if this trailer had dropped a year and a half ago, I'd be kind of losing my mind because it teased everything that I love about Star Wars. Like with Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, what I loved about it is that it was a bunch of Star Wars stuff. It felt very Star Wars without putting the Jedi and the Sith front and center. It's exploring it from this other perspective. A few years later, the idea that we're getting a Ahsoka show that is very Jedi, Sith, lightsaber-centric, Force user-centric. I think that's a nice balance to go with The Mandalorian just a few years down the line. And taking Ahsoka, putting her front and center, having Thrawn actually become a character in live action, getting to see him, and mentioning Heir to the Empire, referencing the Timothy Zahn trilogy from 30 years ago. All of that sounds awesome. And the trailer looks like it has this big scope and size to it with awesome action, a great cast. So once again, the only thing holding back my excitement for this show is really my frustration with Book of Boba Fett and Mando Season 3. Otherwise, I'd be losing my mind completely over Ahsoka. But coming in at number 1, Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi, a Star Wars movie from James Mangold. And this announcement kind of came out of nowhere. Most everything else on the list, we kind of heard murmurs, rumors, something like this was going to happen. And then I woke up today, checked Twitter, had some trailers like, oh, I got to start doing some trailer reactions. And then saw James Mangold is doing a Star Wars movie. James Mangold, one of the best working directors today, director of Logan, director of Ford vs. Ferrari, 2 movies that I loved. Both some of my favorite movies of each of those 2 years, like top 3, his last 2 movies, Logan and Ford vs. Ferrari, both were in my top 3 for their respective years that they came out, have very different tones and vibes to them. But he's been making great movies back for 25 years, and he's coming over to the world of Star Wars. So he's currently directing, or just has directed, the new Indiana Jones movie. And apparently they went, we like you, let's move you over to Star Wars. That's usually a very good sign that they liked the work that he did. They would trust him with Star Wars. So right there, just if they announced James Mangold doing a Star Wars project, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. But I'm also excited about what the project actually is. It's about the first Jedi. And it was described as a biblical epic. And being that Star Wars at its roots has always been kind of the hero's journey, epic, timeless storytelling with this space opera skin wrapped around it. And then when you describe a movie as a biblical epic in that world, I go, yeah, that's right. And there's only so many stories you can do that you can go that big and vast in size. And so he goes, what's the story that can go huge? The First Jedi, the start of it all. Let's go massive. And of all people to trust to do that, James Mangold, I go, yeah, I'll trust him to do a biblical, epic Star Wars story about the beginning of these Force users. There was a quote from him. This is what he said. When I first started talking to Kathy about doing one of these pictures, what occurred to me was thinking about what kind of genre of movie within Star Wars I wanted to do. And I thought about a biblical epic like the 10 Commandments about the dawn of the Force. Where did the Force come from? When did we discover it? When did we learn how to use it? If anybody said that pitch for a Star Wars movie, I'd go, yeah, that's a good idea. That's an interesting take. Going back to what I said earlier, I want to go, or it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Huge galaxy, lots of planets, lots of timelines. And what's the interesting story to tell? The start of it all. Where did all this stuff come from? So right there on the pitch, I might be like, hey, that's way up there. Whoever's doing it. But it's James Mangold. James Mangold, his current last 2 films, Ford vs. Ferrari and Logan. That's a great little run right there. And now he wants to do Star Wars. Hey, with that pitch and that director, I'm all on board for it. Honestly, there's not a lot of things about Star Wars that I can get fully excited about because I don't trust the projects are going to happen. Or as I've mentioned with the last 2 on the list, like, oh, Ahsoka, this looks really cool. But the idea of a movie culminating all these shows together, that's cool. But I just look at James Mangold doing a biblical epic in the world of Star Wars and I go, yeah, I'll take that. Let's do that. So without question, Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi from James Mangold comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, I've got more like it. You can check out my other Star Wars rankings right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.